Hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and I'm trying a new spot here today. This spot here is on my way to work kind of thing. So conceivably, I could come home from work and check these, assuming I don't set the snares too far from the highway. I could check them on the way home from work, just change and get in the woods for an hour, catch the last hour of sunlight. As long as my trail's well marked. The thing with setting rabbit snares is you want to check them every day. You can't check them every day, every other day, right? So if you got a spot where, you go in Tuesday, Thursday, then you can check them Saturday, Sunday, right? That kind of works. But there's so little sunlight. I mean, I get off work 4:30 sort of thing. I go in a bit early, right? But it gets pretty tight, right? By the time I get here, there might be an hour of functionable light. So as I've got a well-marked trail and a headlamp in my kit, that sort of thing, I could conceivably check them after work. But that's assuming there's any rabbit tracks here at all. I'd planned to check a spot much further away, way inland, this weekend, but I came down with a cold on Friday, and then I was at a commission on Saturday, and now it's Sunday, and I'm still not 100%, but I just had to get outside. I was going crazy being indoors. So I thought, well, I'll just check out this spot. It's kind of ideal. But if there is some sort of population crash behind my house, this is only about 20-minute drive from there. So it's hard to think that the rabbits here wouldn't be affected by the same phenomenon. But who knows, right? So here I am. I've hiked in the woods a little bit, and this is dual serving purpose here because I'm trying to break a trail. When I go this direction behind me, southwest west, so more west than south, northwest west, there's a river back there. There's no trail going to it at all. There's a kind of trail that goes in the woods here. I just came off of it. It goes nowhere. It goes deep into the woods and then it stops and it goes nowhere, and there's a deer blind there. So it's a trail, an ATV trail made by a guy who hunts deer and does not fish. I've scouted and scouted. I scouted the hell out of this area, but there's a beautiful river way in the woods over here. If I could get a nice functional trail to that spot where there's a spot where it becomes a huge still water, where the fast water meets the still water, I know I could catch some nice trout in that river, because at the lower part of the river I've caught trout. So this is a conceivably much more inaccessible, much less fished out stretch of that river. So dual purpose of this trip today is to see how close to that river I can get. I'm just going to follow a bearing on my compass pretty religiously, pretty closely, and just walk in. I'm going to go in for about an hour and kind of break trail a little bit and then go back out, and hopefully we'll see some rabbit tracks. So come on, let's go have a look. Very snowy in the woods today, right? We got a nice almost a foot of snow on Friday. So this snow has been down for 36 hours. No new snow, no meaningful new snow. So lots of opportunities for any rabbits that are around to make some trails and show themselves. So let's go explore the forest. All right, so I'm in about a quarter kilometer now. Haven't seen any real tracks yet, but I'm still making a trail, right? I call this like a quickie blaze, right? Where I'm not, cutting down fallen trees, not making a really good path. I'm just sort of punching a hole through, making little marks, holding to a bearing. I'm going 300 degrees. I've got my compass set at 300. That's what I'm following as closely as I can, because there's a lot of tipped over trees. You got to go around them and that sort of stuff. So mostly I'm making blazes like this, which, yes, it injures a tree a little bit, but the tree doesn't kill the tree. As long as you just, make a little, as long as you don't go all the way around, the tree's just fine. And in certain places, I've got some really high visibility pink ribbon. I like pink, very visible. So certain places I'll put a nice highly visible, like in open areas. If there's a tree in the middle that doesn't get a lot of branches, like a dead tree, I like to put a nice big ribbon around that so I could see it from far away if I came off the trail. Because it's easy to follow the trail today. There's a foot of snow on the ground. I can just follow my tracks. What if I come back here when there's no snow? What if I do find the river back there and I want to come back in May to fish trout? Nothing's going to look the same, right? And this is just a forest. There's nothing worse than being lost in the woods at the height of like black fly or mosquito season, right? So yeah, but I'm just doing a light mark, right? Because I want to come back the same way. If I do see, as I'm going along here, I do find some nice rabbit tracks. I want to come the same way, and I found a reasonably easy way through, right? Because as you can tell, finding your way through the woods, this part of the province, right? It's not big open woods, it's thick, heavy woods. So, if you find a way through, you want to go that way. Anyway, it's nice terrain here. It's all, almost all spruce and fir. The odd maple, the odd birch, kind of like the stuff behind my house, right? No rabbit tracks. Anyway, we'll go a little bit further and catch up with you then. Well, man, the going has not been easy. It's really, this area here, really steep. And there's so much snow that every time you take a step, there could be a 4-foot drop underneath your foot. You just don't know. I'm so glad I brought the old walking stick. Because it is really steep here. It's like a 45-degree drop into this ravine down here. So I'm pretty sure I found my way. I'm sure the river is down there somewhere. You can see another ridge up there, but that's too far away. This ravine down here has to be where the river is. It's a big river system that basically goes north, south sort of thing for a long ways. At times turning into a small trickle, and at times turning into lakes. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's down there somewhere, but yeah, with where I am with this cold and how rough the terrain is and just how difficult it's been to navigate with all the snow and the small trees like this area here, these little tiny, 4, 5, 6 foot high Christmas trees. And so that's where you see the snow. That's not the ground. That's like 4 or 5 feet off the ground. So you sort of bust through it, but you never know what you're walking on. There's tipped over trees. It's just quite treacherous. And ordinarily, I'd be a little bit more game, but because I'm fighting off this stupid cold, really getting winded. So I'm going to find my way home. I have not seen one rabbit track. That's the other thing. I have not found a rabbit track. Boy, it looks like good rabbit country. It's just all thick. Evergreens with the odd birch and the odd maple and lots of cover. So it looks like the kind of area where you'd see a lot of rabbit sign. I haven't seen one track at all. Nothing. So, either what's going on behind my house is also going on here. It's not inconceivable. And, just for people that are watching this that have never done any reading about this thing, right? Because I get a lot of comments and people say, oh, it's them coyotes, or it's this thing, or it's that thing. It's not that, right? Yes, where I live, Nova Scotia, Canada, coyotes are not native to the population, native to the area. We used to have wolves and caribou and moose here like 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. And then and deer were introduced to the area, and their logging started, and the moose were mostly wiped out. There's still some pockets of areas where there's moose, but most of the mainland anyway, the moose are gone except for a few areas. And the caribou were completely extirpated. That is like extinct for a particular area. There's no caribou here at all. And the deer took over, and there was wolves here, and the wolves were just basically wiped out and replaced by coyotes. No one exactly knows how the coyotes found their way in. Theoretically, they found their way down north from New Brunswick. And because our coyotes are particularly large and they tend to pack up in the winter, it's theorized that they are part wolf. They're called coy dogs, so they can get quite big, and they can do pack behavior in the winter, and so they're here. But the rabbits have always been here, right? And the bobcat. The rabbits are here. The predators of rabbits have always, the owl, the bobcat. Wolves would have eaten them, right? When it worked out for them. Now they've got coyotes to deal with. Rabbit populations have a way of dealing with predators that almost nothing else does. They're really good at it, right? So the fact that there's coyotes around really is not the reason. You think of any ecological system from a rabbit's point of view as just a giant source of food, right? So the rabbit population increases and increases and increases and increases until that ecological system no longer can sustain the rabbit population, and then you have a winter of starvation, where all kinds of rabbits get weak, and they die of starvation, or they're wiped out by predators because they're weak, because they're starving. They have small broods, right? They have small litters, and the populations can become unhealthy. They can become sick. They can become diseased. And there's all kinds of different. Rabbits are rodents. They do a lot of mating and things like that, right? So there's all kinds of diseases rabbits get. And so when they become unhealthy, the diseases take over, and so you have them all kind of wiped out, right? And they reach a bottom, and then even when they reach the bottom, the predator population does not immediately respond. This is all based on my reading of this. It takes a year or so for the predator population to bottom out. After that, the predator population follows the rabbit population, okay? Does not influence the rabbit population. The predator population is influenced by the rabbit population. No rabbits, the predators, the numbers dwindle, right? So you have a year or so where the rabbit population is low because there's no food, and the predators do okay in those years because the few rabbits that are around are kind of weak and starving and that sort of thing. So, but then eventually the predator population either dies or moves off, goes elsewhere, that sort of thing, reduces. They have smaller litters, less young, all that sort of thing. So the predator population decreases, and then that gives the forest time to start to regenerate. That is to say, for the things that the rabbits eat to increase, for there to be more of the things the rabbits eat to be available, right? For a couple of years, right? So for a few years, there's no rabbits and no predators. When I say no, I mean very few rabbits, very few predators, right? For a few years, that's the case. While that's happening, there's all kinds of areas where there's new growth, new food sources, that sort of thing. And then eventually the rabbit population starts to increase because there's lots of food, and the few rabbits that are around are healthy, and they have large broods, many young. And then eventually the predator population comes back, and they have a kind of balance. Predator population always following the prey population. And then eventually, because the rabbits, it's not like they have governments and statistical agencies and fertility planning and things like that. They just as long as there's food, they mate and have babies. And they just keep doing it until there's so many of them, they eat everything. And then it all just happens all over again. And according to, if it's a snowshoe hare, I keep calling them rabbits, but they're snowshoe hare. That's what we have here. We don't have rabbits. Right, so they'll just keep doing that every 10 years or so, right? The whole thing just crashes and it all starts all over again. It's totally normal. It's got nothing to do with coyotes or anything else, right? I mean, even if there was no coyotes, there's lots of bobcats, which is a specialized predator. I mean, the coyote will eat anything it can get its mouth on, right? They eat deer, they eat all kinds of things, right? But the bobcat is a specialized predator for the rabbit. It's really good at getting rabbits. It's not like, no one ever says, oh, it's those bobcats wiping out the rabbits, right? And sure, I mean, they're not new to the area. They've always been around. But it's the same thing with the coyote, right? They can only eat the rabbits when they're there. If all the rabbits are gone, the coyote population will decrease, right? There's just, there's only so much food. They eat, whatever they can get their hands on. There's a lot of rabbits that eat rabbits. There's a very few rabbits that's not around to eat, right? But if the rabbit population is low, I'm belaboring this point because it's just you hear so many people talking about it. Then they all go out and kill coyotes and all that sort of stuff. And I don't care what you do, whatever, right? But if you think you're going to bring the rabbits back by going out and killing coyotes, that's ridiculous. That is a waste of time, right? The rabbits will come back, right? The coyote population will fluctuate, the rabbit population will fluctuate, and it'll all come back. You go out and spend your weekend, you shoot 5 or 10 coyotes. It's like picking a teaspoon of sand up off a beach. You are not going to affect the coyote population that way, right? Doesn't work that way. That is a waste of your time. It's a good use of time if you love killing coyotes, I guess. But if you think you're changing things, right? If you're going to help the deer population or help the rabbit population by doing some sort of ecological, you're not. They're very nocturnal. They've got 1,000 ways around. You kill a few coyotes, the females just have larger broods the following year. The coyote population reaches a certain size, and then it just becomes part of that equilibrium with the available food sources. Follows the rabbit population. Rabbit population follows the available food. So that's enough about that. I think I made my point. All right, I'm gonna hike out because I got a long ways to go to get out of here, and it's all uphill. Little epilogue here. I just wanted to show you something here. So I'm back close to the road where I'm parked. Okay, and I'm next to a trail here, right? It's like an ATV trail, right, that someone put here who knows how long ago. Okay, really bad, not a great trail. Right, but anyway, it's easier walking. So I walked in this about a quarter click, and then I went off the trail into the woods. So my trail, the one I just made, went that way. And it's poorly marked, and you really can't tell that, other than if you came out here, maybe you'd see my, if someone comes out here the next few days, they'll see my footprints. Maybe they'll follow them in there. Really nothing to see. But I decided to leave a mark next to the road here. One of these very unique blazes, right? A square blaze, right? So all I have to remember is where this logging road is, and that when I see that square, to go 300 degrees, and then follow my compass at 300 degrees, and that'll take me roughly the same. If I stick to that compass at 300 degrees, I should find the various blazes that I made on the trees back there, and a couple places where I tied ribbons around trees, right? There's no blazes this shape back there, right? They're just quick, just pull down with a knife, right? But anyway, I just thought I'd leave that, a little epilogue there, just, a little mark next to a trail that makes it obvious to me there's another feature here where these two trees have tipped over. So I know when I'm walking down this trail, when I see those two trees, I look for the square, set my compass to 300 degrees and follow it that way, and start looking for blazes and signs, right? I mean, it's a very roughly made trail. It's not like I had a folding saw going and I was doing it, made a really straight line. It's a zigzag, just path of least resistance through the woods with the odd blaze and the odd ribbon tied here or there, where I could find a reasonably easy path through. But that's the way I remember the way in. Easy to find, pretty distinct. You don't see too many of those. And anyone come along this trail, I mean, we've had snow down for a couple days. This is not a hiking trail. People don't hike it. Right, I'm guessing whoever uses this trail probably does the ATV thing. When someone's zipping around an ATV, they don't even notice. Generally speaking, they don't notice stuff like that, right? They're focused on driving the ATV and, that sort of thing. Anyway, it was great to get out for the afternoon. I really needed some fresh air, and even though I didn't see any tracks or nothing, and it's been really hard going, it was still just good to get out some sun, some fresh air, and just see some nature and that sort of thing. Just, perfectly good use of my time. So I hope you found it interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. And until next time, enjoy the outdoors on the cheap. Thanks for watching.